welcome to Monday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. So glad you could join us today on the New York Giants YouTube channel. We're having some technical difficulties, and so we're unable to get the program up on Giants.com right now, but we are live on the YouTube channel, and if you're tuning in, please don't hesitate to call us. We do believe our phone lines are still working, so you can still participate in the program. Or, of course, Matt will check out our YouTube channel to see if you guys have any questions that you want to type out on the page.
In the YouTube chat. We'll keep an eye on that.
There you go. And we're going to be here for the next hour. And we start a little bit late, so we'll stay a little bit late and talk New York Giants football with you. It is a special 2 o'clock start time, or at least that's what we were hoping to do, given the fact that training camp is here. Yes, folks, we have finally emerged from the black hole. We have escaped from the Bermuda Triangle, known as the Darth of the NFL schedule. And yes, the Giants veterans report tomorrow. On Wednesday, they'll be in shirts and shorts for their first practice of training camp. Matt, I'm telling you, I'm having trouble sleeping right now because it's finally here. And I feel like that kid who's anxiously counting down the days till Christmas because you can't wait to unwrap the presents. I can't wait to unwrap the roster.
I feel like you've been counting down the days for Wednesday since like January 6th, whenever last season ended.
Right, you are.
Which, yeah, we finally made it. It's definitely going to be a lot busier around here come Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
Good busy, though. You know, it's training camp it's certainly something around here because, you know, we are out at practice for 2 hours in the heat. You know, we're not running around, so I'm not going to pretend like we get even close to as tired as the actual players and coaches, but we got some long days ahead of us and every day, and, you know, no more weekends. I know you might not care about that. I kind of enjoyed having a normal weekend to, rest and recharge, but it's just getting us ready for the regular season because starting Wednesday for the next, 6-7 months, we're working 6-7 days a week. Our lives are Giants football, and you can't complain about that.
I don't pretend to be normal. I know what I am. Okay.
You're Pete Dots. You're one in a million.
I am a workaholic. I'm crazy. I eat this stuff up. I can't get enough of it. And the off season is really, really hard for me. It's like chewing nails.
Well, we have some moments in the offseason that are exciting. I love free agency week.
We have some moments.
Draft weekend's exciting.
Yeah.
The combine's awesome.
There's nothing like when we're in play.
But it's like little crumbs that are just leading us to this Wednesday.
It's crumbs.
But it helps us get to this point. Otherwise, it's 5 months of absolutely nothing, which would be even worse for you.
So it's
At
the
least you
salad.
get some nuggets.
So it's the salad before the ravioli.
Yeah, we can go with that.
All right. All right. Please pass the cheese. As a reminder, you can catch the show on the archive on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and at giants.com/podcasts. And as always, we're coming to you from the Giants Podcast Studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. 201-939-4513 is our phone number here on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Now, I thought today, since we're going to have the players actually come in tomorrow, the veterans, and we'll have the full roster here, again, unless somebody's excused, which they're allowed to be.
And the rookies, just again, I know we discussed this, but the rookies have been here since last week.
Yes.
They had to report last Tuesday, so they've been in the building now for almost a week. And now the rest of the team will join them tomorrow, although guys have been here. It's not
Okay, give me an over-under. How many more tattoos does Thomas Fedoni have?
Does he have any more room on his body for more? I mean, like we saw it throughout spring. Certainly on his legs, he doesn't have any more room. Those are completely covered in tattoos.
He looks like a roadmap.
Yeah,
he really does. He's like a human roadmap.
More interesting to hear if he added any more that he did himself. I don't think so, because he seemed to say he only did it once.
Yeah.
And that it was like a one and done type of thing. But I guess you never know.
I don't blame him for not wanting to do that again.
No, I have a few tattoos myself, and
Okay.
not in a million. And I have a high pain tolerance. Not in a million years would I be able to do
Okay.
that to myself.
Now, so anyway, getting back to the task at hand, what I wanted to do today, ESPN put out a very large story about ranking the starting lineups for each of the 32 NFL teams. This story did drop, I believe it was this morning or overnight. I'm not exactly sure what time it came out.
I think early this morning.
It wasn't early?
I believe
okay.
so.
And they list the Giants at number 27 out of the 32 teams. Now, if you do the math, so they're basically saying the Giants are going to draft 6th again in the draft next year. Okay, that's basically what they're telling you. I'm sorry. I think the perception versus the reality of what this Giants roster is are not one and the same. Those of us who know a lot about football and have been here on a daily basis and know what is in the building have a much better idea of those people who have not been on the property, who have not been in the building, who have not seen any of these players or talked to these players or these coaches, or again, as for that matter, watched what we have seen on the practice field. So having said that, the reasoning or the rationale that he gives the Giants a 27th ranking, and here's what's kind of funny. He says the biggest strength is the defensive front, and he goes on to talk about Burns and Thibodeau and Abdul Carter and Dexter Lawrence, basically saying how terrific the Giants' defensive front is. He does not mention the secondary, and, you know, I hate to remind this fella, but there was a lot of money put into this secondary. They brought in Holland. They brought in Adebo, who, by the way, were the top free agent corners and safeties at their respective positions. And they got good money that does equate to top-level value. So I think he's missing part of the boat here when he talks about the defense. He's talking about the front, but he's not talking about the secondary. Now, you're right. There's got to be some meshing of those guys, but don't sell the talent short. Banks is a number 1 pick with tremendous talent. Nubin is a very, very talented number 2 pick. And the 2 free agents who were brought here, very highly regarded by people in the league.
Yeah. Well, with this, we'll start on the defense.
Yeah.
The defensive front, I agree. I think we both agree. It is definitely the strength. I would say of the entire team, it is the strength.
Yes.
For sure. And that seems to be pretty, universally accepted because I had a few examples ready to go. Warren Sharp, who I know John has on the podcast sometimes, big analytics football guy, just like within the last hour, put out rankings for the front 7 across the NFL. He had the Giants up at number 4. The number 4 front 7 in the entire NFL.
And that's very reasonable.
Very reasonable. And, he's far from the only one. Pro Football Focus had the Giants, just the defensive line. I think they had them at number 2, the second best defensive line in the NFL. And, you could take your pick at which media outlet you want to look at. Everyone seems to agree the Giants front 7, front 4 is the biggest strength and could be an elite unit, one of the best in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And this article touches on that. So in that regard, I appreciate them, respecting that unit, those 2 units.
I think he needs to expand it, though, to the defense.
I agree with you on the secondary, though. So we've been doing the last couple of weeks, John, Dan, and I, 25 questions in 25 days, where each day we take turns, the 3 of us, and we touch on a different question regarding the team. And the one that I actually wrote over the weekend was, what is one storyline about the Giants that is getting overlooked? And I wrote, you would be happy to read this, because I wrote that people are sleeping on the Giants secondary.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is heaping praise on the front, which, again, it's on paper, at least, all of that praise is rightfully deserved. They have what on the makings on paper to be an elite unit up front. But I agree with you that the secondary is not getting nearly enough attention because first you have last year's draft. Let's just start there with Tyler Nubin and Drew Phillips, who both saw significant action as rookies on a defense that as an overall unit didn't play the greatest, and they both stood out. They were both solid to good players as rookies.
Yes.
Then the Giants went out and added Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland, who were arguably the top corner and top safety in free agency, or one of the top corners and one of the top safeties in free agency.
Top shelf.
Guys that are, again, universally accepted to be good at their positions. And as you mentioned, Deonte Banks is still here. And yes, last year did not go as well as anyone would have hoped, but he showed enough as a rookie and still has all those physical traits where you cannot give up on him yet. There's still a lot of football left to be played for him. And, in 7 months, we could be talking about Deonte Banks in a way where, like, how did we ever doubt him? Just because one bad season, doesn't mean you just give up on a first-round pick. And then, obviously, there are guys like Cordell Flott, Dane Belton, like more reserve guys that are going to see a decent amount of playing time. So all those guys together, I agree. I don't think the secondary is getting nearly enough attention. And I know a big part of it is just because as a unit last year, they did not play that well overall. But again, they were relying on 2 rookies to start a majority of the season who both played well as rookies. And you would think that they have a good chance of taking a year 2 jump. And then you added 2 veterans to your starting lineup in the secondary that are proven, experienced leaders that have track records underneath them. Like, they have success in the NFL. Paulson Adebo has 10 interceptions in like 50 games. He's a ball hawk. Javon Holland can do a little bit of everything. So I'm fully with you. I don't think the secondary is getting nearly enough, I guess, attention, buzz, credit, whatever you want to call it. And I get it's because they haven't actually done anything yet.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter until they actually start producing. And I get that. But I think it is a little bit, the attention being thrown on the Giants defense is a little bit lopsided because of how elite the front looks like it could be. People, I agree with you, are just completely sleeping on the secondary.
All right. So we think that he could have expanded the biggest strength just to the overall defense. That's a fair thing to say, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because we're talking about 2/3 of the team here. And quite honestly, we're kind of meshing the linebackers as part of the front seven. We're almost making it a 2-level defense, front 7 and secondary, as opposed to linebackers, and secondary. We're kind of making it 2 units, front 7, secondary. So I think that is right there. Even with the Giants' biggest strength, they're being underestimated by the article. Okay, biggest weakness, according to the story. Now, this is where they're being fair, because the truth of the matter is, as we sit here today, the number 1 position on the show me list, okay, the show me list, which says, show me that you guys are good enough, does have to be the offensive line. I can't argue with that. However, and I'm gonna leave this with you, and then I want you to respond on this one. Here's what's interesting. He says, offensive line, the Giants are set to return all 5 starters from 2024, but that might not be a good thing. Okay, he talks about Andrew Thomas having a lot of injuries in recent years, missing a lot of games. I get all of that. But here's what's interesting. If the Giants do indeed start the same 5 offensive linemen that they started in those 5 positions last season, what was the Giants' record before Andrew Thomas got hurt? Don't look it up. Do you know offhand?
Yeah. He got hurt in week 6. So we're counting week 6?
We're not counting week 6. He got hurt against Cincinnati.
The Giants were 2-3.
Correct.
And outside of the Vikings loss, the other 2 losses were 1 possession losses.
Which did not have to do with poor performance by the offensive line.
No, I mean, the Commanders game was the whole
the kicker thing.
Got hurt on the
and the fumbles and the drop passes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it was the Cowboys. I think it was the Cowboys.
Yeah.
It was the second one.
But now here's the point. The point is, if it is the same starting 5 that they had last year that got them to a 2-3 record, and by the way, that game 6 against Cincinnati, you remember the game here?
Of course.
Very beatable. They had them.
It was 10-7 with under 3 minutes left in the game.
Bingo.
And then the Bengals scored another touchdown. Ended up being a 10-point game.
Was a very winnable game.
Yep.
Okay? My point is, if it's the same starting 5 offensive linemen, with Carmen Brasillo now in his second year as the unit's assistant coach, offensive line coach. I'm saying to you, there's no reason why they can't be as competitive as they were then. They were 2-3. They were 2-3, and Thomas got hurt against the Bengals. The line played well enough to get them to a 2-3 record, which is competitive. After Andrew Thomas got hurt, the team won one more game the whole rest of the season. So I appreciate the fragility of Thomas's track record, but to slam the starting five that they had last year, saying, well, if those same starting five are back this year, that's not necessarily a good thing. Well, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing either. Your take?
Yeah, so I agree and disagree with what is written here. So overall, I agree. The biggest, whether you want to call it weakness, question mark, is obviously the offensive line.
The show me unit.
Yes. That I have no argument against. However, the write-up, the little blurb that they have written here, I strongly disagree with because, and I know you don't like PFF in general, but it says here, as part of the description, it talks about Andrew Thomas and him missing games the last 2 years, but then it says John Runyon, John Michael Schmitz, Greg Van Roden, and Jermaine Illuminor all posted below average to poor PFF grades and run block win rates last season. If you look up, though, I'm going to just touch on Van Roden and Illuminor. That's just not true. The two of them were right on the cusp of they were average. They were right in the middle. They kind of exaggerated these stats a little bit to make it sound worse than what it actually is. And it talks about the run block win rate. Well, the Giants were 18th last year in yards per carry average on offense. Obviously, that's not amazing, but that's not bottom third of the league either.
No,
and that was in a situation where they were playing from behind most games, where they just had to abandon the run game. And Tyrone Tracy, as a rookie, still had a pretty darn good rookie season on the ground, despite all of this quote-unquote poor run blocking win rates.
Well, basically, if you're between 11 and 22, you're in the mid-third.
Yeah. So I don't agree by saying Jermaine Illuminor. Like, you read this, you think, oh, okay, then all four of those other linemen outside Andrew Thomas sucked last year. Greg Van Roden and Jermaine Illuminor were solid linemen.
Yes.
I'm not going to go out and say they were, amazing, way above average starters. They weren't, but they were solid. If they replicated what they did last year again this year, but you combine that with a healthy Andrew Thomas, I don't think anyone's complaining, at least about those three starters on the offensive line. Everyone would be happy with that. And again, this has no mention of Jermaine Illuminor having to switch over to the left side to take over at left tackle for Andrew Thomas after training at right tackle. It has no mention of Greg Van Roden switching positions. So they nitpicked certain very specific, PFF metrics to make the unit sound worse than what it was. Now, I'm not saying the unit was good last year, because it wasn't. But as you mentioned, when the six starters were playing together the first 6 weeks of the season, that was a middle of the pack offensive line that was getting better each week. They were getting better until Andrew Thomas suffered that injury in the week 6 game, which he still finished the game, but you could tell he was not in the rest of that game. He was not
right.
100%.
No, he was not right.
So again, I agree that is definitely the biggest unit where they need to show us that they're, taking a step this year from where they were last year. But I don't agree with the write-up and, trashing. Basically, they trash everyone outside of Andrew Thomas, which I don't think is fair. And even with Andrew Thomas, it says he's very good. He's an all-pro when he's healthy, first of all. But he missed substantial game action, which that's true. He's got to stay healthy this year.
No one can dispute that.
100%. But to just trash on the other four guys, that I don't think was completely fair.
Yeah. And so what we have here now through the first 2 points of the write-up, we've got an underwhelming, apparently misguided opinion that's going out there on the national wire. And this is why people outside the building don't really have a true perspective of what the Giants are.
And no mention that they actually improved the depth at the offensive line this offseason. No mention of that whatsoever.
None. All right. In addition, now some other couple of other guys finished off the selection of the Giants at number 27. X Factor, and this is where they finally, in the third item, they finally tipped their cap a bit. They talk about Tyler Nubin, who had a terrific rookie season. You mentioned that a few moments ago. Talks about the addition of Javon Holland, and later on also mentions Paulson Adebo and says, wow, you can start to see how the back end of this defense could come together. Well, thank you. Finally, in the third item, they're actually seeing that there was a plan to enhance the overall defense and that there is something that was done to make the team better. Gee, appreciate that. That's the X factor for the Giants this year, is the secondary. I kind of feel better about the secondary than calling them an X factor. I know they haven't played together, and there is a gelling and a chemistry that has to happen. But if you want to talk about an X factor to me means it is truly an unknown, and it could be this way or that way with a very wide scope of results. I don't feel that way about this secondary. I think this secondary is going to be pretty good even on their bad days, with the potential to be terrific. So I don't think it's that wide of a spectrum to call it an X factor.
Yeah, well, for starters, I don't really understand just pointing out Tyler Nubin as a specific X factor.
What about Phillips?
If you want to say the secondary, then I can somewhat understand, because if the secondary plays up to their potential this year, then the Giants legitimately have a chance of having an actually elite defense. If the secondary struggles, the front will still, I think would still perform well up to standards. But as a unit, the defense may not be a very top elite defense overall. They could be borderline top 10 if the secondary struggles, or, top half of the NFL. So in that sense, I can somewhat understand going with the secondary overall as an X factor, because again, if they play well, I think the Giants could have a legitimately elite defense.
I just think, again, leaving Drew Phillips out of this comment is also short-sighted. He's a very good nickel.
Yeah, and I was just talking about how they brought up those PFF grades for the offensive line. Drew Phillips was a top 10 cornerback in terms of PFF metrics last year. Top 10 overall in the NFL. Second among rookies behind Cooper DeJean. Yet no mention of that or those PFF numbers in this section of the article, which I don't get. But again, the secondary overall, I can somewhat understand if you want to call that an X factor. For me, the X factor clearly is on the offensive side of the ball. Whether you want to give it to Russell Wilson being the X factor, because that, somewhat of a wide variety of outcomes could play a significant part in the Giants' success this year.
The quarterback position as a whole is an X factor, because you not only know how is Russell Wilson going to play or if he's going to stay healthy, but then how do the Giants navigate the position as they move forward? So that's fair.
Yeah, that I would understand more. If you want to call, Andrew Thomas, well, I guess that wouldn't be a fair X factor because it's just all about health for him.
Right.
If he's healthy,
that wouldn't be.
If he's healthy, no one's doubting Andrew Thomas or his ability. So in that sense, I think Russell Wilson or maybe John Michael Schmitz, to me, are the biggest X factor. Because if John Michael Schmitz takes a big jump this year in year 3, which is a year that we see a lot of linemen take a jump, if he plays well, that could help transform this entire line.
How about the tight ends?
They brought up the interior offensive lineman and the biggest weakness part. Well, if JMS takes a step, that's going to also help the 2 veterans next to him. And that whole unit is then going to improve. I think he would be a much bigger X factor than any individual guy from the secondary.
Are you curious about the tight ends like I am? I think that Theo Johnson's going to be terrific, but I don't know exactly what he's going to be yet, because he did have the foot injury at the end of last season, and this is going to be year 2. I think we all believe he's got a very high upside, but where is it going to be this year? I don't know. I kind of think that's even more of an X factor, because they could get a lot of production out of the tight end spot, or they might get a disappointing production out of it.
Yeah, no, I hear where you're coming from with that. I guess in my mind, I don't consider that as big of an X factor, because it's just the Giants, the pass catchers, the receivers are going to lead the way. in the
I
passing
hope
game.
so.
I mean, I think we can agree at least Malik, for sure.
Yes.
Assuming he's healthy, will lead the way among the pass catchers. And then you'd hope/expect the combination of Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, maybe even Jalen Hyatt, maybe based on what we saw in the spring and all that Russell Wilson's talked up about him. Although he's definitely more, I got to wait and see from him.
Oh, yeah.
More so with Wan'Dale and Slayton because we've seen them do it now in the NFL and for more than just one season. So I guess in that sense, I just expect those guys to lead the way in terms of the pass catching. So I do think Theo Johnson could have an impact. I don't think he's going to, be a top 2 or 3 person on the team in receptions. I think those other 3 receivers I just mentioned, they're going to lead the way in terms of receptions. And then with the blocking, like Chris Manhertz is a very good blocker. If he's on the team and he's out there blocking, I'm very confident in his abilities. Same with Daniel Bellinger. I mean, you'd like to see him, again, take a little bit of a step up, but I guess I feel like they will meet expectations because expectations for them, it's not like they're so high compared to some of these other positions.
I will say this. If the receiving core does not reach their ceiling, and that is, Neighbors has another 90-plus catch season. Doesn't have to have 100. Maybe he has 90. Okay. Maybe Wan'Dale has 75. He doesn't have to have 90 again. He could have 75 and still have a good season. Hopefully Slayton has at least 60. But you know what? There's a possibility if Hyatt doesn't emerge or if one of those other receivers doesn't do what they're supposed to do, they might need Theo Johnson to catch 65 balls.
That's true.
He might wind up having to be the second leading receiver on this team or third leading receiver, depending upon how you want to qualify it, by catches, yards, or touchdowns. He might have to be a big weapon like Kelsey has become such an important part of Kansas City's passing attack.
For sure. And look, before his injury last year, we started to see Theo Johnson do that.
He's got some of it. Yeah,
this was
he
him
does.
As a rookie 4th-round pick. He started to emerge before that season-ending foot injury. Now, we know Russell Wilson likes throwing the ball to his tight end. We've seen it for years now. Theo Johnson participated in all of the offseason workout program. I don't think Dable was ever asked straight up, is he 100% healthy? But I didn't see him miss significant amount of
he
was out there with the starters all of spring. So the assumption is he's healthy. Like I could easily see him taking a step. And that's another guy, that we've seen some media outlets pick, like Fox Sports a couple weeks ago picked Theo Johnson as the Giants' breakout candidate.
Did they?
Yeah. So clearly there's some, level of buzz around him.
Somebody's paying attention out there. Somebody is.
But I will say this, or I want to ask you, just because I saw that this player was released yesterday from another team, and that because we're talking about the tight end position, given that there's, I guess, some level of uncertainty about which tight ends are making the team behind Theo Johnson, would you have any interest in looking into Noah Fant, who was just recently released? Former 1st-round pick.
No, I know he
Very
is.
athletic, has had his own injury issues over the years.
I would probably put him down on the short list in case I had an injury and I needed to call somebody, but I don't think I would necessarily bring him in right now.
Okay, fair enough. I kind of agree. I do think someone will sign him this week away.
Probably.
Because, again,
he is a former... He might be better off waiting, though, to pick the spot that he wants to go to. He might be better off waiting.
I guess it depends who reaches out.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. But, yeah, he's still on the younger side. Again, 1st-round pick not that long ago. Like someone's going to snatch him up. I do agree, though. I don't think the Giants' depth at tight end is – I don't think it's an issue. Like, I think
we're having trouble trying to cut the guys as it is, right?
Between Theo Johnson and then, again, with Bellinger, Manhertz, Fedoni, Dulcich.
Yeah.
We don't know which 3, maybe 4 of those guys will make it. Outside of, I think we're pretty confident Theo will make it. Outside of that, we don't really know. But I'm not that concerned about the depth there. Again, I don't know if any of those guys are going to end up turning into a Travis Kelce. But the way that this offense is built, I don't think they really need Theo to turn into Travis Kelce. I think they just need him to be a solid tight end that will catch the ball when he's thrown to, whether it's 3, 4, 5 times a game. Just catch the passes that are thrown your way I think that's all, and helping the blocking a little bit. I think that's all the team really needs him to do.
Well, if it's 4 times a game, that's 68 catches. I gave you that number before. He might have to catch 65 balls for this offense to be effective, because maybe one of the offensive weapons at wide receiver won't be what they're supposed to be, and Johnson will have to do that. He might have to.
Last year he only had 29, but that was in 12 games.
Right.
And again, he was a 4th-round rookie, so it's not like he was immediately thrown right into the fire.
No.
Like Malik was.
I think the amount of Theo Johnson's contribution is not only going to depend upon him stepping up as a second-year player, but it's also going to be, hey, how much do they need him to step up? Again, if the receiving corps doesn't, they're going to have to lean on Theo and say, hey, Theo, we got to have more from you because we're not getting it elsewhere. We need you to do it. And he's a likely candidate because of his tools. He's got the ability to have a high ceiling.
For sure. I mean, how many times limited action last year, but I mean, how many big catches up the seam did we see him grab?
And I'd like to see a lot more.
And that
I'd
was
like to see more.
Again, and then anytime we talk about last year, again, not the greatest quarterback play on a week-to-week basis.
Right.
So you would think with Russell Wilson, even if it's Jameis, Jackson Dart eventually, whoever it is, you'd expect the quarterback play to improve, in which case it wouldn't shock anyone to see Theo Johnson take a pretty big jump in year 2.
All right, finally, they list the non-starter to know as cornerback Cordell Flott. This is a analytics guy who points to some of the analytics of Cordell Flott, suggesting that he's done some good things for the Giants in the past, specifically last year when he did stay a bit healthier and was able to make some plays. You will never get anybody bigger fan of Cordell Flott than I was when he came out of LSU. I was a big fan of him when he came out of school. I continue to be a big fan of him. I still think Banks is the starter, and I don't think that Flott is in a serious competition to beat him out. But nonetheless, I'm a big Cordell Flott fan, so, I do think he mentioned something here that if he has a really good season, he's in the last year of his contract. And so, contract year, Flott's going to be playing hard because he's going to want to get paid, and there's always a chance he winds up landing somewhere else. I'd hate to see him leave because I like him a lot as a person and as a player. But I don't have a problem with him suggesting Cordell Flott is a non-starter to know. At least he's acknowledging a player who is under most people's radar but has a lot of skills.
Yeah, I mean, I think Flott, I would put Dane Belton kind of in a similar category. I mean, again, entering a contract year with 2 guys that are presumed to be above him on the depth chart. I mean, Flott, I think, is a little more in question between him and Deontay Banks. I know you said we'll see how much, but Belton is the team's number 3 safety. He's not beating out Holland or Newman.
Right.
In the next couple of weeks. That's unlikely to happen. But could still see a good amount of playing time and can still have a big impact on this defense. And either of those 2 guys get injured ahead of him, Belton's all of a sudden thrown into the starting lineup and going to be leaned upon heavily in that case. So I could see Flott. I could see Belton. You could put Evan Neal in this situation, in this category, I think, because
fair.
Right now he's a non-starter, but he's going to at least be given an opportunity to beat out Greg Van Roten for that starting right guard spot. And even if he doesn't, he's going to be likely the first reserve off the bench on the interior offensive line. And as we see every year, guys get hurt up front every single season. Like, it's unrealistic to expect the starting 5 on the offensive line to stay healthy for all 17 games. I wish, most more than anything, that could be the case. But realistically speaking, other guys that are on the bench are going to have to step up for a certain amount of games throughout the season up front. Evan Neal, I think he's just a big potential X factor, honestly. He could be an X factor. If he ends up winning the starting guard position and lives up to or plays up to his, first round draft status, again, this line could take a huge jump if that ends up happening. I don't know. That's a player that we very much need to see him do it, because the first 3 years of his career has not lived up to expectations.
Right.
And we don't know if he's going to be exponentially better at guard on the inside as opposed to what he did at tackle. That's very much a wait and see situation. But I would kind of put him in the non-starter to know category as well as Flott and Belden. But I can't strongly disagree with that because Flott could end up having a big impact on this defense as well.
All right, real quick, the Giants Huddle podcast is up as always. All kinds of NFL and Giants personnel. You can hear some long forms interviews that John did. Matt, what is up there right now? Do we know? Did you do the latest posting on the Huddle?
On the Giants Huddle, I don't know if today's is up yet.
Well, you can tell people what's coming.
The last one, which we posted, I believe, on Thursday or Friday, was John sitting down with a couple of the linebackers on the team. I believe at some point, either today or tomorrow, will be John's conversation with several of the team's cornerbacks.
Corners. Speaking of
some
of the guys we just had.
I don't know exactly
in the conversation
which guys he spoke to.
Okay.
But I believe that will be coming out today or tomorrow. And Charles in our production department put together a video that was posted over the weekend about the Meadowlands, just the area, and how the Giants coming here had a positive impact on this area around here. It's only like a 10-minute video, but it's pretty interesting. Javon Holland and Dante Miller met with some high school football players from Secaucus. They did a little like boat tour on the Hackensack River, and they learned more about the area. It's a quick watch. It's only 10 minutes, but I thought it was pretty interesting.
Look at that.
I thought it was pretty interesting.
That could be very interesting.
Taught me some things I didn't know.
Talk about having an impact. If they had never built this giant stadium, and that's before MetLife Stadium here at the Meadowlands, I don't know if I'd be covering this team for my 43rd consecutive season, to be honest with you. Because it was the logistics that really made it possible for me to do this.
There you go.
So I'm very, very grateful that they decided to move to the Meadowlands. Giant season ticket memberships for 2025 are available. You can stay connected to the team all year long, not just on game days, with exclusive member access and benefits. To learn more, visit giants.com/tickets. Also, Giants TV brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. It's free on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. Our number is 201-939-4513. We're going to get to these two quick phone calls that are on hold, and then apparently it looks like a bunch of you. Are these updated questions here, John? Yeah. We have a bunch of you who did get us questions on YouTube. I believe the website is now up and running, John. Is that correct? Yeah. All right. So Johnny Mac says the website is running, so we got over those technical difficulties. So we're going to get to all the questions that you posted and try to rip through those after these two quick phone calls. Len from New Haven, Connecticut, you're first on the show. Hello.
Hi, how you doing? This is Jason from New Haven.
Oh, hi, Jason. I'm sorry.
What's going on, Paula, man? How you guys doing?
Good.
Very
How
well.
are you, Jason?
Good. Hopefully you guys had a good break while everybody was gone for the summer. So just quickly.
Some of us think it was good. Others were not too happy.
Yeah, so quick points. Yeah, I mean, training camp is here, thank God. We finally get to see some tangible evidence on what our team could potentially be instead of all the speculation, not with you two, but, just from national media. You could tell a lot of these guys don't really watch Giants games. I don't think our O-line, I said it time and time again, I thought our O-line played, like Paul always likes to say, I thought they was very functional last year. Besides,
there you go. Pay the copyright man for that one. Thank you.
I thought they played pretty well. At least the first half of that first 6 games. I thought they played pretty well, and they did well against some pretty good D lines. Dallas, Cleveland. I know I'm missing it, but I won't say they shut those D lines down, but they more than enough held their own. So the Giants O-line sucks. They suck. Are they the top 5 offensive line in the league? No, but I think they're pretty functional. And two guys I want to kind of see what your opinion is. Of course, I'll probably wait another week or two before I ask you guys. But to me, the iteration of the offensive line, to me, I really hope Evan Neal takes this opportunity to take the bull by the horn and secure one of these guard positions, because to me, he is the best run blocker on offensive line in terms of just sheer size, mass, strength. Like, I seen some tape, rewatched some tape of him last year, and he just moves guys with ease off that line. It's pretty impressive to watch. So, man, if he could just really take the bull by the horn and secure one of those O lines, make GVR, the first man off the bench in terms of the interior offensive line off the bench, I think that's the iteration of the line that has the most upside in terms of towards the end of the year. We're talking about the Giants O line as maybe top half of the league. I won't say top 10 or top 5, but maybe top 15, top 16, 17, around that range. I think that would be good enough. And the last guy, I'm interested to hear what you guys say, and I'll take it off the air with this one. I'll probably call it another week or so. One guy I'm intrigued by is this young man named Cambray, if I'm saying his name right. Cambray?
You mean the receiver?
The undrafted receiver.
Yes, the receiver.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the receiver. I didn't know too much about him as far as his college career. Apparently, he wasn't really used that much in college, or maybe for whatever reason
He
he
was
didn't
a
play a
special
lot. I
teams
don't know,
guy.
but
Special teams guy.
He seems like he has some skills. Like I said, I'm not saying he's going to make the final 53 or anything. I'm not saying that, but I want to see what he looks like. And like I said, I know you guys are short on time, so I'll take it off the air, and I'll probably give you guys a call next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.
Well, we've already talked a lot about Evan Neal. I think we all agree competition makes people better. And if he winds up winning a starting job, then that's good for the Giants because it means he beat out other guys.
Yeah, I'll just say this very quickly. I agree with Jason in that I think the highest upside offensive line does have Evan Neal as one of the guards because he had elite physical traits. He was an elite offensive lineman going into the draft. Obviously, it's not been the case the last couple of years, but that's why they shifted him inside. Greg Van Roden was very solid last year, but given his age and how long he's been around, I don't know if it would be fair to say that you can expect him to take a jump, in year 12?
He is what he is.
He is what he is. If he gave a season like last year, no one's complaining about that. That's very solid. Evan Neal's upside, though, is higher. I think he also has a lower floor based on what we've seen the last few years, which is why they're going to go through training camp and see who wins the competition. But I agree with Jason that the offensive line that has the highest upside and the highest potential does include Evan Neal at one of the guard positions. So that point, I agree with Jason fully.
Yep. And again, Cambray was a special teams guy. Did not do a whole lot in the passing game when he was in school. And so we're just going to have to see. All of these kids, and I'm not going to pull punches here, a bunch of the undrafted rookie free agent wide receivers did some nice things, had some nice flashes during the offseason program. But that doesn't mean much. In fact, it kind of means very little until you get to training camp and then you play in the preseason games. Some of these guys may continue to show flashes. Some of these guys may all of a sudden fizzle out and not become anything. You just don't know.
Yeah, look, we saw several undrafted rookie free agents perform very well in the offseason workout program. But that is the time where they are taking the most reps. Malik Neighbors didn't take a single team rep.
See,
some of those other guys Darius Slayton was out there. Jalen Hyatt was obviously out there. Wandell was out there, but they're not taking every rep. The offseason, and then kind of mostly the offseason workout program, but part of training camp too, is more for the bottom of the depth chart guys to prove themselves. We know the top starters at the wide receiver position for the Giants this year. We don't need to go through training camp to know who the top 4 receivers are going to be. The offseason workout program and even training camp is for those bottom of the depth chart guys to make a name for themselves and to prove themselves why they deserve to be on an NFL roster. So, yeah, Cambry did look good in the spring. I think you could say that about a few other of the undrafted rookie wide receivers as well. And part of it is because they were just getting the most reps out there.
There's a phrase that people talk about all the time, and it's not necessarily related to football, but it really could be. And that is, tomorrow is not guaranteed. Well, that's how it is for every one of these undrafted kids.
For sure.
Tomorrow is not guaranteed. So every day, they've got to go 180 miles an hour for every single rep if they're going to have a chance to come back tomorrow. And that's just the way it works throughout the entire offseason for those guys. Look, I can only say this. It's better that they showed flashes rather than not. but it doesn't necessarily mean they're guaranteed tomorrow either.
By no means, no.
That's it.
They got to do that for all the training camp just to have a shot at making the 53-man roster.
Len from Columbia, Maryland is next on the program. Hi, Len.
Hi, hey guys. I thought for a second I moved to New Haven. I had to think.
I know. I got line 1 and 2 confused on the computer.
Hey, it's an exciting part. It's certainly an exciting time
But I know you were at Len for the Yale Bowl, Len. I know you went to the Yale Bowl. I know you did.
Yep.
Of course you did. I did too. Go ahead.
Yep. That was a year and a half up there.
We'll forget about that for the moment. Go ahead. What do you got on the 25 Giants?
Just one worst nightmare memory. Joe Namath.
No. Don't go there. Don't go there. I'm sorry I opened the can of worms. Go to 25. What do you got today?
Yeah. Okay. Matt, I want to go back to those Pro Football Focus rankings on middle of the road on Illuminor and Van Roten. Middle of the road is like 32-33 because there's 64 starting guards. Is that about where you had them? Is that where they had them? Do you remember?
I mean, I can look up exactly where they were. So here, PFF for Illuminor, it said that there was 140 offensive tackles eligible. And he was 65th, which is a little bit above the midpoint.
Well, it's the midpoint on non-starters. I mean, 65. There's 64 starters. He was 65. Matt?
They're saying.
I mean, he's outside the top half. I mean, the guys at the bottom. You go to 140. They had a minimum number of snaps. And there are a lot of injuries around the league. That's why there's 140 rated, obviously. But when I look at 65, off the top of your head, do you remember where they had? I'm not knocking the offensive line here. I just want to put this all in perspective. Who was the other guy? Van Roten. Do you remember the number? Was that in the 60s also? I mean, if you got 2 starters in the 60s, and you got, I think Schmitz. Remember, there's only 1 center per team, obviously. They had Schmitz at 26. You begin to see why they had the whole offensive line rated at 28 when those 3 guys are so high.
Yeah, but Len, hold on.
I thought maybe you were talking 18 or 19.
Len, let me get you to push the brakes half a second here.
Sure.
The problem is, and I stated this, I thought very clearly, when the Giants' offensive line was intact, I'd love to know what their grades were for those players.
There you go. Oh, yeah,
at week 6.
That's another way to look at it. But
all right?
the point I wanted to make on this, if they're as low as that, and I'm going to use that terminology, Matt, if they're as low as that, the other 2 guys on the left side better be a lot better. I mean, you can't go with 63 and 64 and a 26 at a one position.
Thomas is going to be better,
one position player. Holy cow! Those numbers. You haven't played very well with those kinds of numbers. But let me move on.
Yeah, please.
Thank you for clarifying, Matt. I appreciate it. Who do you think starts at right guard? I mean, you think Van Roten's going to start again, or is he just here as that backup 2-position player?
As of
or
right,
are they that high on who is the undrafted free agent? Kubas? Are they that high on Kubas?
Now, I do know that Kubas is liked inside this building.
Very much.
He didn't play much last year, but there's a reason why he's stuck around. They do like him. Now, I don't think he's being right now penciled in as like the starting guard. I think as of right now, 2 days before training camp starts, Van Roten certainly has the early favorite to win that spot. But Van Roten himself said it when he spoke to the media, I think it was like 2 months ago during OTAs. They are all competing. It is a straight up competition for that, especially that starting right guard spot. Van Roten does not seem like he's going into training camp thinking I'm the starter no matter what happens the next month. It's going to be a strong competition between him, Neal, and Kubas for sure. Yeah. But I do think as of right now, I think Van Roten would probably be the favorite given how he played last year and the fact that he's the only one that played every single snap last year.
I would think the first day of training camp, the first time the starting offensive line goes out there, it's probably going to be Van Roten, and you see what happens after that.
Yeah.
Paul, I agree with your point yesterday on Bo. He's probably the ninth lineman, and is likely not to get a uniform very often unless we get hit with injuries.
Yeah.
Which leads me to say the following. I don't see how Ezeudu makes this team. I just, even if they go to 10, they re-signed Stinney for a reason, and they gave him a lot of money. I just don't see how Ezeudu is going to make this team.
Len, the only thing I can say is they're going to keep the best 9 or best 10, whatever it is, and then there's a practice squad. Now, look, I'm not trying to be funny, but
no, I know.
The guys who don't make the 53 along the Giants' offensive line, they may not find a claim somewhere else in the league.
Right,
and so,
I agree.
And so there's a real chance that 2 or 3 of these guys wind up coming back on the practice squad anyway. And as long as they're still in the building, you still have to consider them as part of the potential equation.
Yeah. I watched a little tape. I watched a little tape on Hudson. I know you talked about him yesterday. Now, look, I'm no offensive line guru. I'm not going to pretend that I am. But one of the things that I like to do is if they bring in a new player, I try to find some kind of tape to look at. And my observation, I mean, he is what we know he is. He's the swing tackle. Hopefully Thomas is healthy and Illuminor on the other side, and we'll go with that, especially with Andrew, who would make a big difference. But I mean, he's the third tackle. When I looked at that tape, you have to hope he doesn't play a whole lot, Paul. He's better on the left than he is on the right, and as a run blocking standpoint, he's just mediocre. I mean, he's the third tackle. That's what he is. We know what we got. He's better than Ezeudu at left tackle, that's for sure. He may not have been as good as Illuminor at left tackle, but he's better than Ezeudu, and as you look at it, that's probably a gain for us. One thing he does that just kind of shocked me, guys, you know how we look at Lane Johnson get into pass blocking position and we say he's offside? You know how he jumps? He's terrific at that. Hudson does the same thing. Have you noticed that, Paul?
Yes, I have.
Oh my goodness, he gets out of his stance as quick as anybody we've ever had.
I think that's why they like him there, and that's why they prioritized him in free agency.
Yeah.
I will say this, Len. None of the tackles, the backup tackles on this team, are going to make me forget about Bob Whitfield or Sean Locklear. Who and I'm not saying that to be funny, but you'll remember in the last 20 years, those were probably 2 of the best, number 3 tackles we've had on this roster.
Absolutely, Paul. Absolutely. I agree with you on that. I agree with you. But still, the hope is he doesn't get to play too much.
I'm with you.
We need Andrew. The drop-off is, pretty
Len, I want to
fantastic.
try to get to our comments from the YouTube, if you don't mind, because we were a little bit late getting on.
Go for it. Go
we'll
Giants.
See you at camp.
Go Giants.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Len.
All right, let's go to YouTube comments because we were a bit late getting on. We had some technical troubles, and so you got a lot of people here who wrote in, and this is really cool because we don't get a lot of these write-ins usually, but we got a bunch today. So let's go through a few of these. Ty Play says, I wonder how Dante Turbo Miller looks at this time. Honestly, would love to see him make it into the lineup. I think he is fighting with Eric Gray for that 4th running back spot on the 53. May the best man win. They both have different traits. Miller is more of a speed guy and a quicks guy, and Gray is a little bit more of a physical guy. But right now, I don't know that I could handicap that one.
Yeah, and I mean, for both of them, that competition in general, I mean, they're both fighting to show the coaching staff why there even should be a 4th running back on the team. Because that is not far from guaranteed that they'll carry 4 running backs is possible, but we don't know that for sure.
No, we don't.
If the coaching staff is going into training camp thinking we're likely only taking 3, then that makes that, Dante and Eric Gray is also, that makes, expectations even higher for them in order to make the team. Like, they're going to have to show a lot over the next 6 weeks then if the coaching staff is only thinking 3 guys. So, I'm pretty safe to think Tracy, Scadaboo, and likely Devin Singletary, given his contract, are making the team.
You got 3 guys for sure.
Yeah, but, Dante Miller's definitely one of those guys I could see if he doesn't make the team that the team would have interest in bringing back on the practice squad for sure.
R. Cruz says, anybody else want to see Elijah Chapman's athletic ability used elsewhere because the D-line room is pretty full? I'd love to see packages with him at fullback. He told me last year when I talked to him privately, he has already told the coaches he'd love to get the ball at fullback some. Didn't know if they were going to do it last season. They did not. I don't think they're too anxious to do it, period. But you never know.
You never know. I do agree. I'd love to see Elijah Chapman just about anywhere on the field. Whether
he's a fun dude.
Defense anywhere on the line, fullback. I mean, it's pretty commonly accepted with the players on the team. He is considered to be one of, if not the strongest players on this team.
Pound for pound.
Pound for pound. And that's coming from his teammates that have been saying that, not just us who love Elijah Chapman. So I would love to see him out there basically lining up at any position.
All right, Ty Plays also comes back, says, honestly, some solid quarterback play this year, and we take a huge leap. How often did we see receivers having to go back to catch a ball, hurt yak yardage? Understood. Russell Wilson is not going to underthrow receivers. I guarantee you that.
No.
We don't need to go anywhere else with that.
If Wandell has the same number of catches as he did last year, I can guarantee you it will be for a large margin more yards than what he had last year.
Roger Little says, we just need to hang on with the receivers long enough. He's talking about the secondary to let the front 7 do their job. Well, that's the other part to this. If the gentleman from ESPN was so effusive in his praise for the Giants' front 7, he should have also said to himself, well, look, the secondary, they just signed a couple of really high-priced guys. Some of their young guys played well, and if the front 7's going to be that good, that's also going to help the secondary be better.
100%. And it also helps that 2 of your best guys up front, and I'm just talking about the edge guys and Burns and now Abdul Carter, are known for getting to the quarterback very quickly.
Exactly.
Under 2.5 seconds. So.
All right, we're going to go real quick through these because I know you people put them in there, and I'm not going to sign off till we get to them. So let me go through quickly. Chris says, do you think the Giants need to play more press coverage for the defense to be successful? Look, I think given the talent that they have on this team now, you'll see more of that. And as long as they execute properly, the answer is yes. But you've got to execute it. Because if you don't execute it properly and you wind up having busted coverages or guys who don't play the receiver correctly, now you get burned. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Jamal Jones says, who's going to practice on Wednesday? Well, we don't have that list yet.
We do not. I can tell you that come Wednesday, Dabes and Joe are both speaking to the media. They will probably say who, if anyone, is starting on the PUP list. There's likely going to be some guys. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to miss time. Last year we saw guys start training camp on PUP, got activated within a week, and were completely ready to go for week 1. So there will be some, injury status updates on Wednesday, but just because a guy gets thrown on PUP on Wednesday does not mean that he's for sure going to miss time come the regular season.
In other words, there could be some slow ramp-ups. Don't panic.
Yes, we still got some time before week 1.
Little Gio says Russell Wilson is winning most close games easily. Well, I'll say this. He certainly knows how to pull close games out of the fire. But easily?
I hope so.
That'd be great.
I certainly hope you're right.
I don't think my stress level needs any more nail biters, okay? Jamal Jones, I think the O-line will be improved on the basis that they're going against a potentially top 10 defensive line all camp. That's the old theory that iron sharpens iron. So in theory, yes, there's certainly a possibility of that.
And not only that, but just improved play from the defense overall is going to help the offense
without a doubt,
because it's going to give the offense more, let them get on the field quicker in between drives as opposed to the defense, the Giants defense constantly having to be out there because the offense keeps going 3 and out like we saw a lot of.
How about not having to play from behind all the time?
That is obviously a big one as well. Not playing from 2 scores down every single game will certainly help the O-line.
Mark B says O-line needs continuity and communication. You get that with the same crew. Definitely needs serviceable depth. Priscilla is elevating that line. Martin Gennaro says, I have to guess that Snee is helping out also. Both of those comments have a lot of validity. Roger Little says, X Factor would be Cam Scatterboo as the X Factor. Ran for 21 touchdowns last year. I think at the very least, if he does not have a larger role on this offense, he will be the short yardage and goal line back. I would predict that right now.
Yeah, I don't know if I go so far as to call him an X factor. I think they're just bigger X factors, but he certainly has the potential to have a big impact on the offense this year.
James O'Keefe says, in general, the Giants are flying under the radar in the NFL. If we stay healthy, the Giants can catch a lot of people by surprise. James, that's why we discussed this national column early this morning on the program. We wanted to show you perception versus reality. A lot of people outside the building just don't have a firm grip on reality. They have a very sketchy and blurry perception of what this roster is.
And all I'll say to that is let them think what they want, because I feel like a lot of people in this building like it better when there aren't too much expectations, and then they go out and surprise everyone by playing well. And I can tell you, expectations inside the building, not the same as the expectations from the national media.
Mark B says X Factor could be JMS and Neal. Okay, fine. You mentioned that. Jan Bogacki says we need to get push on O-line and D-line. It needs to be blood on the dance floor. Well, that would be rugby, not pro football. Then we need, or perhaps UFC. Then we need some sticky frog hands, safeties, and cornerbacks. All right, Stickum was outlawed in the NFL decades ago. They no longer have Stickum, but you older folks will know what I mean. Also, Jan saying we need to make quarterbacks sweat and fear interceptions. Mark B says Hyatt will take off this season, courtesy of Russ Wilson and Jameis Winston. James O'Keefe says tight ends have been underutilized in the offense. Mark B says, man, Hurts blocking machine. Definitely need that on the line. Jamal Jones says, the feeling of knowing we can pass the ball this year is so exciting. And James O'Keefe finally pulling up the rear with the last comment. This roster finally has depth and competition for starters. Should be an interesting camp. That is the best possible comment we could end this program on.
100%. I mean, we've discussed, you and I, John and I, I'm sure you and John, countless times over the last couple of months, that for the first time in at least a few years, Giants likely have guys that are not going to make this team that are going to get looks from other teams around the league, which in previous years, most of the guys the Giants would cut would end up not on a team or bouncing around potential practice squad, getting picked up, 2 months later. This year, the Giants are going to have some guys not make the team that other teams are going to be looking immediately to claim off waivers and get on their squad. And that is a sign of a improving roster.
All I can say is watch your preseason games carefully, because there's a lot of roster spots that are going to be really, really hotly contested for. And every preseason snap is going to matter, all the way down to the final preseason snap in the third and final preseason game. Those are important snaps for every one of these guys. It's going to be unbelievably difficult, I think, to figure out the Rubik's Cube of the final 53.
Yeah, and just adding even more to the complexion of that is that you got to keep in mind, until, was it week 3-4 of the regular season, the Giants are number 3 on the waiver priority list.
Which means a high claim.
Which means when cut down day comes and every team gets down to 53 players, the Giants are going to have the 3rd highest priority of every single one of those players. So that leaves the Giants in a good position to potentially add even more depth at certain positions come the end of training camp.
All right, folks, we are back live for the next couple of weeks at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That is correct. 2 p.m. Eastern Time for 1 hour live talk about New York Giants football here on Big Blue Kickoff Live from the Giants Podcast Studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. Our number is always 201-939-4513. For Matt, I'm Paul. This has been Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. We'll see you next time.